Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jeremy Bennett at JB Huskers on Twitter. Welcome to the second episode of Lost in the Midcard. How are we doing today? This is definitely an interesting time in the WWE. Lots of questions that we may have gotten answered and a lot of questions that are going to be answered on Monday, apparently. We'll get to all that here in just a little bit, but let me introduce my co-host on Twitter, Raw F. Showtime. It's Matt Black. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. How you feeling?
Well, I think I'm in the middle of a sinus infection, so hopefully we can do some smooth sailing since this is our second take for the Open. That first take didn't quite go so smoothly.
Yeah, it'll be on our blooper reel at the end of the year.
Oh, geez. I think there'll be a lot more that'll be a lot funnier than what we just did there. But anyways, let's start off with Thursday Night SmackDown. As everybody knows, a big snowstorm hit the Northeast, knocked out Monday Night Raw for the first time, and who knows when. I think Matt, is it the second time Raw's been canceled, first time being Benoit's suicide?
Yeah, I mean, well, Benoit was the first time anything ever like that occurred. I mean, this is the first time Raw was ever canceled in the aftermath of a natural disaster, which really didn't hit New York and Connecticut to begin with. Most of the parts anyway. The upper Northeast really got the brunt of it. At least we had a Raw.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I mean,
we'll talk about that Raw here in a little bit. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But first, let's go to kind of the main story of the week. The first live show, actually from Hartford, Connecticut, where Raw was supposed to be on Monday. They had it live Thursday because, of course, with the storm, it knocked out the Tuesday taping for SmackDown, which I'm not sure where that was supposed to be.
It was scheduled for Boston.
Boston,
yeah,
so the travel
straight up canceled that.
Yeah, so travel, no travel at all. So they had a few days to put together SmackDown live on Thursday, where Raw was supposed to be. What did you think of the crowd reaction for Roman Reigns on the first live show after the Royal Rumble?
Well, it wasn't good. Unless WWE is just hell-bent to go out of their way to create the new John Cena. Because if that's the case, I guess they got exactly the crowd reaction they wanted with the "Let's go Roman sucks" chants. If you're getting that type of reaction from the guy right now on the road to WrestleMania, congratulations, WWE, you have your new John Cena.
Yeah, what I thought was, okay, it's Hartford, Connecticut. It's a different crowd than Philly. It's still in the Northeast, but still, you'd figure it's a far different crowd than the Philly crowd that we saw at the Royal Rumble. But what you see on TV is telling. A lot of people felt the same way, and the Hartford crowd did boo quite a bit. I didn't think it would be as bad, and especially a few days after the fact. But yeah, you heard a lot of boos on that live edition of SmackDown.
And pairing him up with the Big Show
again
didn't really it didn't do him any favors whatsoever. No. Because let's face it, at this point, we don't want to watch the Big Show wrestle anyway. So, I mean, you're putting out somebody who the crowd's already mad at because they're perceiving him as being the guy who took the spot from their boy, and then you're putting him against somebody that nobody wants to see anyway. I mean, it was somebody that had a hand in eliminating all the guys that people wanted to see win the Rumble with Dolph Ziggler, Ryback, and Dean Ambrose, and even Bray Wyatt.
Yeah,
I mean, they even tossed Bray Wyatt out like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah. After he had a very impressive start to the Rumble, and look, he had like the third, fourth, fifth 6th and 7th eliminations. He had 5 in a row, and and he still was the Iron Man of the match. So he did definitely put on the best performance.
I mean, he got his time in there, but I mean, he was tossed unceremoniously just like everybody else.
Yep. And
I absolutely hated those eliminations. I mean, I don't want to flip on the Royal Rumble again, but the punch out and the heaping and tossing over the top rope like the person's knocked out was just so just
oh yeah, the whole end of the Rumble was a pile of shit, especially I mean, you get Rusev in there and okay, we might get ourselves a little drama. No, a spear and a toss over the ropes in like 20 seconds. So, yeah, that whole end of that Rumble was just a pile of shit. We all know that. But Triple H came out on SmackDown and promised to shake the industry. What do you think that means, Matt?
Well, he said he's going to shake the WWE Universe to its core. And everybody has their own predictions out there. I've read everything that everybody's told me on Twitter in the past couple of days. The one I like the best, and I don't see it actually happening, but I think it would be pretty cool, is the return of the brand split.
Yeah, that's been rumored.
Separate Raw and SmackDown again. I wasn't a huge fan of the brand split back in the day, and it wasn't because it wasn't a good idea. It was because I didn't think their talent roster was deep enough to effectively do it. I think it is.
You think it is? I don't think it is.
Honestly, top to bottom, I don't think WWE has had a better, well-rounded roster since the late 90s and the Attitude Era. The problem is when they're showcasing the same handful of people on both shows, it's not giving all those guys a chance to rise up. There's a lot of people there right now. I mean, we talked about them, Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, Dean Ambrose, Bray Wyatt, Cesaro, Tyson Kidd, all these people that everybody wants to get behind. There's not enough time to build them because they're so focused on the top of the card, monopolizing both shows, that these guys don't have the time to rise up and become bigger players within the company. So, I mean, if you take the rosters and you split them in half, all of a sudden there's a whole lot more time for these guys to get fleshed out, get more TV time, hopefully get better storylines, get some more crowd support behind them. I mean, you can bring back the draft. I think people from NXT would come up to the main roster quicker. So there's a lot of exciting talent down there that could find a place on one brand a lot easier than it is to get lost in the shuffle of one gigantic brand put together. And what better way to do it? You want Roman Reigns to become the WWE champion. That's great. We're going to have Daniel Bryan and Dolph Ziggler go one-on-one for the World Heavyweight Championship on the other brand.
So you think they'll bring back the world title if they split?
Well, you have to. Yeah, if you're gonna split the brands, you're going to create a championship for SmackDown and a championship for Raw. Obviously, Brock's going to keep the title on Raw, which means I would think the world title would go to SmackDown. Put the Intercontinental title on one show, U.S. title on the other. You could, since the tag team division is not deep enough for two sets of titles, you can have the tag champions balance between both shows. You could have the Divas champion balance between both shows. And other than that, I mean, I think you'd be set to go. I really do. I think there's a lot of potential in the idea of bringing back the brand split. But it's like WWE saying, all right, we don't want Daniel Bryan or Dolph Ziggler to be the WWE champion, but if it will shut all of you up, we'll put a secondary world title on them and let them headline the B show.
Well, the problem is, just like when Paul Heyman was the head writer of SmackDown got so much better than Raw, they didn't like it. And that's what's going to happen if they actually, they put Ziggler and Bryan on SmackDown fighting for the title. It's going to be a better show than Raw. And again, they're going to have another problem in their hands. I'm not a fan of the brand split.
Well, it almost seems like SmackDown, since it's moved to Thursdays, has turned into the Daniel Bryan show anyway. Because Daniel Bryan has main evented Thursday Night SmackDown 3 weeks in a row. in all 3 weeks, the ratings have gone up. They pulled almost 3 million viewers in on SmackDown on Thursday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they want to turn SmackDown into the Daniel Bryan brand, I mean, why wouldn't you want 4 million viewers on both Raw and SmackDown every week?
Yeah, but at the same time, they got 3 hours on Raw, and there's no way they're going to leave Daniel Bryan off of Raw either. I mean, they got 5 hours between their 2 main shows. I don't think they need a brand split. I think they just need better management.
What do you think? What do you think Triple H is going to do then?
I don't know. I think he's going to change the main event again. And that kind of leads us to our next bullet point here. Does the main event of WrestleMania need to be changed?
I don't know.
I feel a little better after the Raw from the WWE headquarters. That was a great segment with Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, and Brock Lesnar.
Well, you can thank Paul Heyman for that.
Basically.
Because, this is what happens every time WWE gets themselves into trouble. They go, hey, Paul, can you pitch this for us? Because we're just not doing a good enough job of doing it on our own. And you let Paul sit there with a microphone for 5 minutes, and he can sell you on something that you had originally no interest whatsoever of seeing to begin with. He's a genius.
But he is. There's no doubt about that. And I think Reigns held his own pretty good in that interview as well.
Dude, he was cutting cutting that Taken promo, man.
Yeah, and then and Brock was brilliant, man.
Brock is Brock. You gotta love Brock.
He needs to talk a little more, even though he's not a greatly skilled mic man. When he talks, it's usually pretty good, especially when he's a smart ass, like when he tells Paul to shut up.
Hey, Paul, say something stupid.
That was, yeah. That was a.
Here's the thing about Brock.
One.
Brock's not good at being scripted. Okay, no. Brock is a terrible guy to script. But if you go back and you watch his post-fight UFC interviews, that dude is awesome on the microphone. He just isn't good at, reading off of a script or something and being fed bullet points. He just wants to speak whatever the heck's on his mind. So he was doing that rant on Raw like 2 weeks ago, calling everybody baby.
That
stuff was gold, man. I was like, dude, I like this Brock Lesnar. It's not like I didn't like Brock before, but, when Brock's, like, just ready to kick anybody's ass, and he's just, I thought it was great. And honestly, I mean, you don't really need to change the main event if you're so insistent on having Reigns and Brock. What you need to have at this point is you need to sign Brock to a new deal. They cannot let Brock leave after WrestleMania 31.
No.
So that's step one. Get Brock locked under a new deal. You lock Brock under a new deal. You turn Reigns heel. You turn Brock face, which I think he's already borderline face right now anyway, and you just do the match and you let, whatever happens, happens. But the main issue going into that match is Brock Lesnar his contract can't be expiring after WrestleMania.
Yeah, well, I'm writing an article. It's going to be out actually I'm going to probably put it out Monday I'm going to try to work on it to get it put out by Monday just because of the Triple H announcement. I want to get ahead of that in case he is changing the main event. I'm writing an article on 8 ways to tweak the main event of WrestleMania. Well, my very last point is to leave it alone, but I've got about 7 other options. 2 of them, one is if he's not re-signing, and one if he is re-signing. If he's not re-signing, I think that Rollins needs to cash it in. And I honestly think somehow Ambrose kind of holds the authority hostage, and we end up with a Shield triple threat at WrestleMania for the title. If
they could have done that at the Rumble, and they didn't do it.
Yeah. If Brock stays, great, because he's been great for business right now. But you can do a couple of things. You can have Lesnar take out Reigns where he's injured and hold him out of WrestleMania. You can hold a King of the Ring tournament for the number 1 contender, in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania. You can another option I'm going to have in the article, but I don't necessarily agree with or don't really want to happen, is have Paul Heyman turn on Brock Lesnar and join Roman Reigns. It's interesting, but it's hard to be believable when Paul Heyman has been in his corner all along. And I just don't know if it would work well.
And anybody who remembers history, it's already been done.
Yeah.
They had when Heyman turned on Brock and joined the Big Show. You know, I mean, the same storyline has already been done. Heyman leaves one big man to go for another big man, and Brock turns face, and the other guy turns heel. But that's only going to work if Brock's sticking around. You know, if Brock doesn't stick around, there's really no point to do that. I'm going to screw you on your way out the door, and we're never going to see you on TV again. That makes Brock leaving look like makes him look like a wuss. And
and I think
here's the main problem. We're all hoping for all this, like, literally shaking the WWE Universe to its core, and we're literally hoping that they're going to do something awesome on Monday night. For all we know, Triple H is going to come out and address the controversy that Curtis Axel was never eliminated from the Royal Rumble. So the main event tonight for the right to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, it's going to be Roman Reigns versus Curtis Axel. Well, don't tell me you can't see them doing something like that either.
Well, the way that he set it up, I don't think that's going to be what it is.
I wouldn't put it past them now. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, I guess you could try to get ratings for Monday night because, their ratings on Monday night were an improvement just from being live from headquarters.
Raw had the highest ratings on Monday night since July of 2014. What does that say about their product right now?
So we might find out if there is any kind of change that's going to happen. Possibly find out on Monday, or it'll be just a big dud like Matt just said there. Let's go to the breakdown of that headquarters Raw, Raw from the headquarters at Stamford, Connecticut. And I think this should spin off into its own 1-hour show once a month. Set up a studio on the road. Obviously, they can't do it from the headquarters every month because it's not feasible with where you are in the United States or around the world at the time. But hell, I think this should be its own show on the WWE Network or even on USA. Sit down
it's
interviews.
Really simple. You know what it is. It's Tuesday Night Titans.
Yeah,
that's all you got to do. I mean, and I'd like to hope that
without Vince doing a song and dance.
Of course, without that. But I'm saying they recently just added Tuesday Night Titans to the WWE Network. Mm-hmm. So since it's fresh in their minds, and this sit-down interview thing, along with the Royal Rumble matches, was such a hit for the ratings, it's a no-brainer, to take these kind of things and create a new Tuesday Night Titans on the WWE Network. I know it sounds weird, but one of the main things I look forward to from the WWE every week is Cole's sit-down interview with Triple H on WWE.com.
Yeah.
Because sometimes Triple H and Cole, within the matter of 5 to 10 minutes, can better explain and move along a storyline than our edition of Raw.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you do an hour show of that every week, especially since they've taken main event away from the WWE Network because of the UK contract issue. Throw up a Tuesday Night Titans every Tuesday night at 8.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to worry about where you're filming it. You film it backstage at Raw that night.
You just set up a studio that makes it look like like where they were at,
Yeah.
That's not too hard for them to do with everything that they got at their hands. So explain a little bit more to the people here about the main event issue.
Well, when WWE Network went to the UK, I think this is one of the things that prevented them from going at their original launch date anyway, and they just decided to say, screw it, we're just going in. UK has exclusive rights to air main event over in the UK on Sky Sports. So the WWE Network cannot air main event, and since the UK is getting the United States version of WWE Network, they basically just took main event away from all of us. The only way people in the United States can watch main event now is through Hulu Plus. And that's the only way it's available. I
see.
I don't understand why they just don't geolock it, like over in the UK. I mean, I know that kind of stuff is possible, but they don't really seem to have any interest in doing that. But I mean, I think that would solve the problem right there. Just geolock main event on Tuesday nights when it's supposed to air in the UK.
Yeah, you'd think that's something that they wouldn't have a hard time trying to do, but with WWE, you never know.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, the Raw from the headquarters at Stamford, Connecticut was pretty good. The sit-down interviews with with Seth Rollins, kind of the little confrontation Seth had with Brock Lesnar, the Daniel Bryan interview, and then of course the best night, Cole getting kicked out of the interview. I mean, that deserves a MVP moment there for Paul Heyman. And, of course, Dean Ambrose being Dean Ambrose.
Dude, that Ambrose thing was crazy.
Supposedly walking from Hartford, Connecticut to Stamford. I don't even know how long that is. But walking probably take a while there. But, yeah, that was a pretty hilarious little bit there with
later on, he claimed
Ambrose.
he was hitchhiking.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, who knows with Dean Ambrose? But, I mean, honestly, what it said to me, I thought it was a positive because you're on the road to WrestleMania. You're in a situation like you are there, and the people that you feature on the show that night were Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, and Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
You know, if those are the 5 guys that you're looking at going into WrestleMania, that's a good thing. They didn't. John Cena wasn't there. You know, Big Show and Kane weren't there. You know, it was Brock, Roman, Seth, Dean, and Daniel Bryan.
I would have loved it at the end of the Seth Rollins interview that just all of a sudden Randy Orton RKO's him right in the studio there.
Dude, I was hoping Seth was going to cash in Money in the Bank on Brock.
right there.
Dude, I totally was. I was hoping when he said he wasn't leaving from the seat, and Brock came in and Seth threw the chair down. I'm like, dude, if Brock sits down and Seth clobbers him from behind with a referee and cashes in Money in the Bank in WWE headquarters, that would have made the internet explode.
Mike
because
Chioda,
everybody would have been like, what just happened? That would have been great. I think that would have been really cool.
I didn't know Mike Chioda hung around with his own wrestling gear at the WWE headquarters. What a coincidence.
He does. Just watch the JBL show.
Yeah. So they did the best they could with the show, and it actually showed in the ratings, so that's pretty cool. So maybe that'll lead to bigger and better things. Let's go. Since this is our second episode ever, and we're at the end of January, but let's take a look back to 2014. Since we just started this last week, why don't we let's break down our top 5 WWE wrestlers of 2014. I will start off at we'll start off at number 5. I'll start off here. My number 5 this year is Brock Lesnar. Even though he's a part-timer, what he did this year with his time was phenomenal. He broke the Undertaker streak at WrestleMania, something we never thought would ever happen. He had the most lopsided main event for a championship match ever at SummerSlam. And then he followed it up with a great match with John Cena before Seth Rollins got involved. I think all of those together, it's hard to have them any higher on the list, but I think that Brock deserves to be number 5 on my list. And who'd you have at number 5 on yours, Matt?
See, it's funny that you mention that, because Brock Lesnar is in my top 5, but he's not number 5. He's you say he doesn't deserve to be higher than number 5, but he's higher than number 5 on my list.
That's a tease, folks.
So it is a tease. You know, we got to keep listening. You got to hear where he lands. Number 5 on my list for 2014 was Dean Ambrose. And honestly, the only reason he wasn't higher is because he kind of fizzled out at the end of the year with the feud with Bray Wyatt. He kind of just forgot about the fact that he was chasing after Seth Rollins. And it kind of fizzled out the character a bit. I'm hoping they reignite the Ambrose-Rollins feud in 2015, and they kind of pick it up right where it left off. But I thought Dean had an amazing 2014, and I'm really hoping, like I said, just the fact that they even decided to include him on Raw, I'm hoping that means that they see big things for Dean in 2015 and beyond.
Yeah, no doubt. And as a tease on my list, I've got him too. But, of course, I'm a little biased because he's my favorite wrestler on the card right now. But anyways, number 4, I've got one NXT guy, and it is Sami Zayn. This guy has done it all this year. If you watch NXT, you'll know what I'm talking about. Many matches he hasn't had a really bad match, you know, and facing Cesaro, one of the greatest matches of the year. Not as good as his 2 out of 3 falls from a year before, but with facing Cesaro at NXT TakeOver, that was just a phenomenal match. He's had great matches with Tyler Breeze, and then of course we get to Adrian Neville. Probably one of the best matches of the year was for when Sami Zayn won that NXT title. He's been around as El Generico for a long time, and I think after his feud with Kevin Owens, it may be time to bring him up to the top spot or into the main roster. So at number 4 this year, for 2014, I got Sami Zayn. How about you, Matt?
I don't have any NXT guys on my list because I was trying to stick strictly with the main WWE roster. But I will agree with you, if there was one shining star standout on NXT this year, it was absolutely Sami Zayn. He had a phenomenal 2014, and I can't wait to see him and Owens fight for the NXT Championship on February 11th at the new NXT TakeOver event. That's going to be awesome. My number 4 on the countdown here is Dolph Ziggler. I might have even considered swapping Dolph and Dean for 5 and 4, but unlike Dean, who fizzled out at the end of 2014, I thought Dolph rose to prominence at the end of 2014. A couple reigns with the Intercontinental Championship this year. The Survivor Series match where he came from down 3-1 and came back to win, and recapturing the Intercontinental title at the end of the year, I thought put him in a really good spot going into 2015. Obviously, he didn't have the greatest match at the Royal Rumble, but I'm not looking at 2015 for this list. I'm looking at how their 2014 went, and I definitely think Dolph Ziggler belongs in the top 5. So he's in my 4 spot on my top 5.
All right, my number 3 is none other than Daniel Bryan, who bleeding over into 2014, that great 9-month feud with the Authority, which accumulated to the championship at WrestleMania 30. And then unfortunately he got hurt for most of the year, but of course, what he did for the first 5 months or 4 months plus is hard to be ignored. The comeback story, he had one of the best matches of the year against Triple H in his first of 2 matches at WrestleMania 30. And then, of course, saved the main event from being a disaster, joining in the triple threat match with Batista and Randy Orton. And, of course, one of the WrestleMania moments that you're never going to forget. And obviously he'd be a little higher if he had a full year under his belt, but definitely got Daniel Bryan in the top 3 here for me this year. How about you?
No, you know what? I like the Daniel Bryan thing. I will say this: I don't think anybody on. I don't know about your top 5. I mean, I'm not going to count Sami Zayn. I'm not counting Sami Zayn in this, but I know my top 5. I don't think anybody had a phenomenal 12 months straight. I don't think there was anybody stand out in WWE that for all 12 months was, the best. Because everybody was so up and down. So, I mean, It was a lot easier to put the top 5 together because you're just looking for moments, and the moments that made these people stand out for the year, because nobody had a very solid 2014 all the way through. With that being said, I think one of the guys that got the closest to that would have been Seth Rollins, who I have at number 3, Mr. Money in the Bank. When they first did the Shield split up, I was super worried about the choice that they made, because if I would have thought if anybody should have split, it should have been Ambrose. I thought Ambrose should have been the guy to turn heel, because I thought he was more of a natural heel than Rollins was. But he's definitely gone out of his way to prove me and a lot of other naysayers wrong. His mic skills this year in 2014, have developed into something he would have never been able to do as Tyler Black in Ring of Honor. His matches have all been phenomenal. In the acquisition of the Money in the Bank briefcases, kept him relevant even in some situations where he wasn't doing as well on TV as I was hoping that he was going to be doing. So I think in terms of consistency throughout 2014, there might not have been anybody better than Seth Rollins, but he's still my number 3 spot of 2014.
Okay, and for me at number 2 for 2014, I've got Dean Ambrose. Like I said, I'm maybe a little biased because he's been my favorite wrestler. I've been following him ever since he was John Moxley in the Indies, and I marked out big time when he had that little face-to-face at Mick Foley that the WWE didn't even follow up on, which was kind of ridiculous. And then, of course, when they debut in 2012 as The Shield, and I see one of the guys is Dean Ambrose, I got a little giddy, I'll have to admit. Once The Shield broke up in June, Dean Ambrose really started to take off. And then a couple months later, when Roman Reigns got put on the shelf, Dean stepped it up. And, he garnered the biggest reaction at the company of the time just because of how talented he was. Obviously, he's a part of the Shield, so that had to do with a lot of his ranking because they had some great moments with Evolution before the breakup of the Shield. But on his own, I actually liked the Bray Wyatt feud. It probably could have been a little better, but it delivered. It delivered some great moments, and I think the ambulance match was brilliant. It was a great send-off for the feud. And obviously, main eventing Hell in a Cell with Seth Rollins is a testament to what the WWE has thinking of Dean Ambrose and what the fans think of him. And he took the ball and stepped it up, I think, once Reigns went down. And showed that he can be a main eventer on his own here in 2015. So that's why I got Dean Ambrose at number 2 in my list here for 2014. How about your number 2, Matt?
Man, before I get to my number 2, I can't hate on the pick of Dean being number 2. I know I have him in my 5 spot, but you got to think how much better 2014 would have ended if they wouldn't have decided that we might be pairing Bray up with The Undertaker at WrestleMania, so we have to make Bray look strong.
Yeah.
And if Bray hadn't have been made to look strong, and maybe when this entire feud was planned from the beginning, when they were planning to do Sting and The Undertaker, maybe they were like, Dean's going to win this feud. And Dean could have had a really good end of the year, and he easily could have placed much higher in my top 5, but it just didn't turn out that way. I just felt that the Wyatt feud felt a little flat. I hated the exploding TV monitor. I thought it sucked that he lost the ambulance match. I get it for what they're trying to do for Bray, but I just felt it hurt Dean a little bit at the end of the year. That's the only reason I didn't have him higher. My number 2 is Daniel Bryan. Even only being around for half of the year, I think he had some of the greatest moments that I've experienced in my life as a WWE fan in just the time he was there. From January to May of 2014. Where there were some really cool, magical moments that really reminded me why I became a fan when I was a kid to begin with. Daniel Bryan's rise to the championship at WrestleMania 30 was awesome. I was there in New Orleans when he won the title, and it was certainly a moment I'll never forget. I'm really not sure about where they're going to place him this year, but I'm hoping for another magic carpet ride, so to speak. I don't know how they're going to do it, or if they're going to do it, but I'm hoping Daniel Bryan's around all year, and he's somehow, by the end of 2015, we can say Daniel Bryan had an even better 2015 than the end of 2014. Will it happen? I don't know, but I'm hopeful, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, it'll definitely be best for business if Daniel Bryan has a full 2015 full of feuds. If he's healthy all year round, you could probably expect a title run at SummerSlam or Survivor Series. Guarantee that, I think. I don't know. He's still doing everything he did before the injury. So
the only things he's not doing now is he's not doing the diving headbutt.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm really glad he took that out of his arsenal. And, of course, as soon as I say that he's going to do it on Raw, or something.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm just going to throw my hands up and like, why are you doing this? But I mean, since he's come back, he hasn't done the diving headbutt, which I like. And when he's doing, I don't know if you've noticed this, but when he does the quick runs into the turnbuckle where he does like those corner drop kicks over and over again,
Yeah.
when he used to do them before he left, he was kind of landing on his neck with everyone that he hit. Now watch him do them now. Like in the month since he's been back, he's kind of landing on his hip now instead of going down on his neck. I think
kind of doing the old Ric Flair thing.
Exactly. Man. I think it's going to be really good for him in the long run. Did you see?
He still does the dive through the. He still does the dive through the ropes too. Yeah, he still does the dive through the ropes.
I still think the dive through the ropes is safer than the headbutt off the top rope.
It is, because you're just stretching your arms out and your arms are stopping your momentum, and where you don't land. You rarely land on your neck there. But yeah, I forgot about the diving headbutt. But yeah, he'd be pretty fucking stupid if he continued to do that, especially with all the uncertainty of even if he was going to wrestle again. So
yeah, I would be heavily annoyed if I saw him going for that move again.
My number one wrestler for WWE 2014 is Seth Rollins. This guy, he was the star of the feud with Evolution in my book. We all know the talent that he's had, but of course when he turned on the Shield, I mean, we knew the Shield was going to break up, but we didn't see it coming on that week, and then all of a sudden, there you go, Seth Rollins has turned on him. And, we were saying, Dean Ambrose is a more natural heel, but holy shit, has Seth Rollins turned into one great heel ever since he did the turn. It's been phenomenal and is getting better week after week and still is delivering. I mean, we are now 7 months after the fact that he turned on the Shield, and there are still "you sold out" chants. That's got to tell you something of how well of an asshole that he is. And J&J Security, I love those guys because they're great contributors to the business right now with Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury. They're great trainers, and it's kind of good to see them kind of get another shine on the spotlight. And actually in main events where they weren't really, as a wrestler, they never really got to reach. And I think it's really kind of cool that they're kind of getting put into the top stories just because they've been such a great asset for the WWE. And also it kind of reminds me of the Stooges from back in the day with Pat Patterson and Jerry Briscoe. So, but Rollins has had top-notch matches all throughout the year. I think his body of work with Evolution and everything, I think he's had the most complete year. We'll get to my honorable mentions here in a little bit after we talk about Matt's number one, but I think that he has had the most complete year with the most success, and I think it's gonna definitely lead to the championship sooner, if not later.
Because I said it's hard to argue. When I mentioned him at number 3, I told you I when it all came down to it, he might have had the most complete 2014 of anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I can't give him the best, but man, he was definitely up there. What I find it funny is the only differences in our countdown, while the spots might be different, the only differences in our countdown is you had Sami Zayn and I had Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
Everybody else, we were pretty much on the same page. We didn't review this ahead of time.
Nope.
We didn't want each other to know our picks ahead of time. So it's pretty cool. We're kind of on the same page with our guys, but we're totally in different spots about where they belong. Yeah. Because your number 5 is my number 1, and the number 1 wrestler of 2014, without a shadow of a doubt, was Brock Lesnar. The man he destroyed Big Show at the Royal Rumble. He ended a streak that I never thought should have or would have ended. He destroyed John Cena, making him look like a curtain-jerking jobber at SummerSlam to capture the championship. And every single one of his matches this year have been phenomenal. And with Heyman there at his side, selling these feuds and keeping him relevant throughout the entire year, man, he felt special. And I know everybody complains about, the champion's not on Raw every week and blah, blah, blah. And honestly, I wish he was at every pay-per-view, but back in the 80s when I was growing up watching this stuff, you didn't see Hulk Hogan every week.
No.
Hogan wasn't on every show, doing an interview or defending his title or fighting, Brutus Beefcake or Ravishing Rick Rude or something. He was always... when Hogan came out in the 80s, you knew something special was going on. And I kind of feel like that's what Brock is now. When Brock's music hits, you know something special is going to happen. Because he and the championship, I feel, are more important, that we don't see them every week than we see them just every week. And, it's just, we expect that championship to be there.
And we like with the Philly crowd, I mean, they clearly didn't turn on him just because he's part-time. He had the biggest cheer out of him, Rollins, and Cena. So they definitely understand the situation, and obviously it's in the contract, so Brock's only going to do what he's in the contract for, but the fans did not turn on him because of that, which is kind of interesting. But at the same token, though, I think 4 months was a little too long to defend the title. I can go one pay-per-view without a WWE World Heavyweight Championship, but 4 months in between, I think, or 4 months till
there was
in between.
There was 3 months of no title defenses: October, November, December. If he would have defended at Survivor Series, and we would have just skipped over October, December, I don't think anybody would have had a big of issue of it as they did.
But it was 4 months since the last defense, so.
Well, yeah, because if you have to wait the entire month of January, but at the same token, Brock was on TV almost every week in January.
Yeah.
So he was there, every week leading up to the build-up of the Rumble. And man, I'm gonna before we mention our honorable mentions, I'm gonna go on a little part-timer rant here for a moment.
All right.
And I'm so sick of people giving the part-time talent grief. It's not their fault. They didn't make these contracts. WWE made these contracts. So if WWE wanted them to be full-time, WWE would make them a full-time contract with the pay in order to make them full-time. And I'm not even talking like, doing the house show loop and all that, just every Raw, every pay-per-view, whatever. But, Brock, Rock, RVD, Chris Jericho. I like when they come back. And I don't need to see them every week. And I don't need to question their love for the business just because they're not killing themselves on the road 300 plus days a year for my entertainment.
Well, I hope that nobody's questioning Chris Jericho's love for the business, because a lot of people, if they don't listen to the Jericho podcast, a lot of people don't know he just did a tour with the WWE where he called it the reverse Brock Lesnar. He only did house shows. He did no TV.
And he's doing that throughout the entire road to WrestleMania.
Is he doing it all the way?
He's working house shows all the way up until the third week of March. But he's
I didn't realize it was that. I didn't realize it was that long of a stretch.
Yep, he's going all the way. I think it's March 21st or something is his last house show, and then he's going on tour with Fozzy again. But he's got a whole bunch of WWE house shows lined up over the next few months. If you're going to a house show between now and the middle of March, there's a good chance you're probably going to see Chris Jericho. But he just doesn't want to be on TV right now without a meaningful storyline. I heard he was backstage at the Rumble. And, he didn't want to be a part of the Rumble because he didn't feel that, it was an important, worthwhile venture for him to be involved in. And,
well, he's the ultimate company man right now. He's doing the veteran thing, putting over younger talent. He did that with Bray Wyatt. He did that with Fandango. But yeah, you can't question his love for the business because like I said, he's doing the reverse Brock Lesnar thing right now.
Completely agree.
All right, I got 4 guys for honorable mention.
Ooh, I only have 3. Well, I have Sami Zayn as my NXT shout-out, so technically I have 4 too. But you already heard that about Sami Zayn. So
I'm just gonna run through mine. I gotta run through mine real quick. Bray Wyatt is one of them. The best promo guy in the business. That's a wrestler, obviously. Paul Heyman is the man right now for promos. But Bray Wyatt has got the best promos. He's got some good matches, but he needed a reboot and lose Rowan and Harper, who went on their separate ways, and he lost to Cena at WrestleMania. He lost the feud with Cena, which I don't agree with at all. So the 2014 was promising but not breakout, but he sure started out 2015 pretty good. I got an NXT guy also, an honorable mention, Adrian Neville. Obviously held the title for most of 2014 and looks to be called up to the WWE main roster very soon. And as long as they don't go with that fucking Mighty Mouse gimmick, holy shit.
Don't even get me started on that today, dude.
Wow, if
we're not talking about that right now. We'll cross that. We will cross that bridge when they are dumb enough to put that on TV. And I'm telling y'all right now, if you guys like this show and you like hearing me go on rants on Twitter or whatever, if they do a gimmick similar to that for Adrian Neville and he gets brought up to the main roster, make sure to listen to the next episode of Lost in the Midcard because I will be going off.
We will be earning that red little E on iTunes for explicit on that day.
Absolutely.
Adrian Neville, again, involved in one of the matches of the year with Sami Zayn. A true talent for his size. He's one of the leaders of the new school. So definitely got him an honorable mention. I got Dolph Ziggler on there because his body of work for good was just 2 months, and he was really scuffling for most of 2014 until he started joining Team Cena. So that's why I left Ziggler out of the top 5. And speaking of Team Cena, I got John Cena on there just because he's John Cena. He's been there all year. John Cena was one of my favorites when he was with the rapping gimmick and all that. And then I got sick of him like everybody else is. But now I'm not really sick of John Cena anymore, like a lot of the boo birds are. I like it when John Cena is in a match. I like it when he's involved in stories now. I don't dislike him. I wish he would get rid of that little 5 moves of doom role that he's on there and kind of mix it up a little bit still. But I enjoyed John Cena in 2014 enough to put him in my honorable mention.
I honestly thought John Cena had a very weak 2014.
Yeah, that's why he didn't make the top 5.
Yeah, I thought he had one of his weakest years he's had in a long time. I didn't even give him an honorable mention. I mean, really, the only thing I can tell you that John did in 2014, besides Rage Against the Authority and fight Brock Lesnar, is bury Bray Wyatt. Yeah. And I really don't think that really turns out to be too much of a 2014. I thought.
Well, hey, for John Cena being John Cena, though, to take the beating he did at SummerSlam and accept that was kind of good, though.
Oh no argument there. But I think 1 month in, I think John Cena's had a hell of a 2015. Yeah. And I think he could continue to ride that momentum train throughout the year, and he might have one of his best years ever if they use him right this year. But I didn't see him in 2014. I did not think he had a good year. My honorable mentions. We only agree on one, so that's interesting. We both had Bray Wyatt. So that's cool. I don't really have to explain anything more than you already did about Bray. I've got Roman Reigns on my honorable mentions, man. That dude. You know what? You can boo him all you want, but you're gonna believe that Roman Reigns had a hell of a 2014. His feud at the beginning with the Wyatt family was phenomenal. His feud with Evolution was amazing. He had that run towards the WWE Championship over the summer. When how quickly the internet wishes to forget. Go back and look at everybody begging for Roman Reigns to become the WWE Champion over the summer. And how many people were angry that John Cena got the title again. Everybody wanted Roman Reigns to win that ladder match at Money in the Bank.
Well, yeah, because that was before the force feeding began.
But I'm just saying. Everybody wanted him to win that match. Like, everybody I talked to was like, I know Cena's going to win, but I wish Roman would win. And, that's not a bad sign. He's not dead yet. there's still a chance that they can save this. He had that. He had the couple months off from the injury, which I think it kind of derailed his momentum in the 2015. And I think if he would have been there all year, he probably would have been in my top 5, and he probably wouldn't be dealing with the same issues that he's dealing with the crowd and the people right now. Because both him and Daniel Bryan were out for a portion of last year, but people were a lot happier to see Daniel back. You know, and they both came back within a couple weeks of each other. So
let me ask you a question. Here. If Daniel Bryan hadn't come back yet, would the reaction to Reigns be completely different?
I don't think it would have been 100% different, but I would go for a good 80 to 85% different, because everybody wants new talent to rise. And let's face it, this time a month and a half ago, we didn't even know if Daniel Bryan was going to be back for WrestleMania. Let alone the Royal Rumble. So if you weren't gonna let Daniel win the Rumble, why didn't you just keep him off TV until the week after the Rumble, have him come back and be like, I just got my doctor's clearance, I'm returning at Fastlane. Wow, awesome, Daniel Bryan's back for WrestleMania season. Sucks that he missed the Rumble and the title picture's already decided, but at least our boy's back. Then maybe he'll get a title shot after WrestleMania. You know, it almost feels like, if you look at it that way, it almost feels like WWE sabotaged Roman Reigns. Because there was no reason to bring him back for the Rumble if he wasn't going to win.
Yeah.
They easily could have kept him off TV for another few weeks and brought him back post-Royal Rumble.
I mean, how many people called bullshit when he was Superstar of the Year, thoh?
Dude, I voted for Daniel Bryan.
I can't remember who I voted. I think I voted for... I can't even remember.
I voted for Daniel Bryan because I thought he deserved it. I was very shocked that Reigns won, and WWE continues to claim that voting is all legitimate, but I don't know if I really buy that.
Yeah. Who else did you have on your honorable mention?
One more. And I'm sad that you don't have this man on your list at all. Nowhere to be found.
I probably forgot.
You didn't think this guy had a good 2014, but I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Because I thought Bad News Barrett had an amazing 2014. And man, if he wouldn't had that shoulder injury, man, I can only imagine how good of a year he would have had if he wouldn't had to take time off with that injury. Because, dude, he was riding the momentum train as Intercontinental Champion when he got hurt. Big things were happening for BNB. And I thought he had one of his best years he's had since the Rise of the Nexus a few years ago.
Definitely.
So, I mean, honestly, he could have even found a way onto my top 5 if he would have been around all year. And let's see where it all went. But, man, I thought for the time he was there and the momentum that he was able to build, with a gimmick that, honestly, when it first started, everybody just wanted to change the channel. Like, this is so stupid. What's he doing up there on the podium? The dude made it work. He got it over, and he got a championship out of it.
Can I have some decorum?
Exactly, dude. He's the best. Bad News Barrett's
the best. I'm a big Barrett fan.
So I'm really hoping he has a great year in 2015.
I'm a big Barrett fan. He's one of my favorites by far. Just his return. I don't know. I think his return. His matches were good, but I don't know. I think they should have maybe made him a face.
I completely agree.
The steam he had before Swagger hurt him. The steam he had didn't seem to come back when he came back.
Well, the problem is when they returned him at the end of this year, or the end of 2014 and early 2015, it's like they brought him back as a face. You know, he came out and did, it's me, it's BNB. And he beat Cesaro, who was a heel. So it's like they brought him back as a face, and then a week later the Authority's back, and all of a sudden he's fighting for the Intercontinental Championship with Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
So that I think might have hurt his momentum more than anything, because they seemingly brought him back as a good guy, and 1 week later he was a heel again, and people were like, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of stuff's confusing. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they're thinking.
Well, that's just creative in a nutshell with the WWE. But anyways, let's go to the only live show of the week. Well, actually, there's only one live show that airs on TV. But anyways, the only main show this week with no Raw outside of the headquarters episode. We got SmackDown. They got a few days to maybe tweak this to make this into a good show. Wasn't a blockbuster show, so I think they're kind of holding back for Raw on Mondays.
I definitely felt like they were holding back for Monday.
Yeah. Triple H's promo was pretty good. I love the balls jokes for the deflated balls. I thought that was kind of funny, even though predictable.
It was typical Triple H DX humor. It was good for what it was.
So it'll be interesting to see what his announcement on Monday is. I hope it isn't Curtis Axel, because
I'm telling you, man, don't count it out. Don't count it out.
We got Roman Reigns versus The Big Show, which is starting to turn into John Cena and Randy Orton.
Daniel Bryan versus Kane.
Yeah.
Which hopefully that's over with.
No surprise there with Roman Reigns coming out. We got a Hall of Fame announcement. We got Arnold. What do you think about the Arnold for being in the
Get
celebrity?
To the chopper!
Get down! And I'll get down again.
Put the cookie down!
I think it's good. Definitely a good celebrity.
It's a good induction. I mean, and Triple H is going into Arnold's bodybuilding Hall of Fame thingamajiggy thing that they're doing in Columbus this year. So it's kind of, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine type of deal. And I'm sure Triple H would love to get Bruno to come in and induct Arnold, because Triple H is like the biggest Bruno mark in the world. So I could see Bruno coming in to induct Arnold, because Arnold inducted Bruno a few years ago. So, I mean, it works out. I mean, there's much worse celebrities in the WWE Hall of Fame. Hide your carry.
Exactly. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. That had, yeah, we're not even going to go there. We got some backstage promos with Kane in a casket, and the only thing I can think of that is, oh, yes!
Yeah, they could have used Paul Bearer in those segments, because they were awful.
I didn't hate him.
Oh, they were bad, dude.
I didn't hate
They were early 90s WWF bad.
You don't like Kane, though, so.
I don't.
You don't.
Maybe that had something to do with it.
It looks like we got our tag team title situations settled for Fastlane, as it looks like deservedly so. I think we're going to get Tyson Kidd and Cesaro against the Usos. We got Jey Uso and Tyson Kidd in a match, which I wish they would have gotten about 7 to 8 more minutes. But Tyson Kidd,
it was a good match for what it was.
It was, and Tyson Kidd gets the win. Glad to see Tyson Kidd getting a little push, and I think what I'm kind of hoping is this tag team with Tyson Kidd and Cesaro kind of turns into a faction led by Cesaro, which gets him a little more of a push. I doubt that's going to happen, but that's what I'd like to see.
I was going to say, I don't know if they'll go that far. But here's something I got to ask you before we move on. The Usos were coming out before the commercial break. Who did you think they were going to face when they came back?
I had no idea.
I thought for sure they were facing freaking Stardust and Goldust again, or Miz and Mizdow. I was so happy when they came back and Kid and Cesaro were out there. I was like, thank God, something different.
Yeah, thank God. That's true. We got an in-ring promo with John Cena and Rusev. I liked it. Thought it was good. I liked it, but he really tried to sell Ho a lot, and that was the only stupid thing I didn't like.
It's John.
Everything else was good. I like the pubes and boobs comment was hilarious.
69 in Ho, brother.
The
69 in Ho.
That's even bad for DX.
It's typical John Cena. And you know what? I can't even hate on him anymore. It's so passé to be a John Cena hater. Honestly, as long as that man's not the WWE champion, he can go on the show and do whatever he wants. I don't freaking care. Just keep him out of the title picture. Because one more title run ties him with Ric Flair. That I don't want to see. But freaking A, let's just let John be John at this rate.
You know John's going to break the record anyways, but
just don't say that.
It'll have an asterisk by it though because Flair did it back in a time when titles weren't hot potatoes. So, backstage segment with Renee Young and Paige. As we know, Paige is going to face Nikki Bella for the the Divas Championship at Fastlane, and of course that led to a twin beatdown.
That's like bad.
Stupid pale jokes.
Dude, and I'm a fan of the Divas division. That segment was bad. It was bad.
It was. We got Golden Stardust against the Ascension, a nice little fresh tag team matchup. The Ascension gets the win, rightfully so. So they're kind of now starting to beat established teams. Kind of, they're on the creative pace. When I wrote that article, they're on that creative pace that I'm agreeing with. So the crowd is dead for them though. Which
the crowd doesn't care. And I'm telling you, I think this match was less about the Ascension and more about the continuing dissension between Goldust and Stardust.
Yeah, and that's obvious.
I definitely think the Dust Brothers are going to collide at WrestleMania this year. Finally.
And this is another stupid creative. It's like we already saw the breakup of a tag team thanks to a tag, with Big Show and Mark Henry. I mean, that was just done not too long ago.
But I mean, honestly, they've been building up Goldust and Stardust dissension for the last month.
Yeah, they have.
And I mean, they haven't really spotlighted it, but go back and watch their matches for the last month, and there's been hints in every single one of the match. There's slow building to it. And if they decide to go back when this feud ignites, and they decide to go back and play all these clips, everything's going to become clear. People are like, I saw that coming. Now that you show it all to me in black and white, it makes sense.
Do you think he's retiring at WrestleMania?
He said on Twitter that he wasn't. So I don't
hope not.
I don't think he should. I think he can still go. I think he can go better now than he could 5 or 6 years ago. So I don't think he needs to retire yet. I think he's still got some time left.
And then we got the premiere episode of some magic show after SmackDown. So of course we have to have a magician backstage, which was a completely fucking stupid.
Dude, he
segment.
got Zack Ryder on TV. I was cool with it.
That's true.
That's all I got to say about that. Zack Ryder.
And Mizdow broke character for about 20 seconds, which was kind of interesting.
There's another tag team that's splitting up real soon.
Yeah. And then finally we got Daniel Bryan against Kane in the casket match. As far as casket matches go, I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't too terrible, and kind of a cool scene at the end to see Bryan standing on the casket doing the yes chant. We all knew who it was going to go over, but I think for what it was a pretty good match in the end of that feud.
Dude, as long as it's the end of the feud, I couldn't be happier.
Well, they're pretty much saying it is.
I'm hoping, dude. I can't. I don't want to see them fight again. Ever.
Now let's shift gears here with one last topic before we close the show. Let's talk about Impact Wrestling, because it is something that I just finally started getting back into after years of not watching it. I can't even remember the last time I watched it with regularity. I think I did a little bit with Aces and Eights just to check it out and see how big of a ripoff it was of Sons of Anarchy. and then God, I remember Angle's wife and Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle in a feud, and that was years ago. So I haven't watched it with consistency in a long time, but I have watched everything since they moved to Destination America. So my takes will probably be maybe a little more positive than yours, Matt, because you've watched it still every week, right?
Yeah, I try to. There was a 2-month period when they had the falling out with AJ Styles that I stopped watching. Because I was really angry with the way that they handled his exit from the company. But other than that, I've kind of maintained a consistent weekly watching of the program. And one or two things aside that they've done since they've been back, Destination America, they put out some good episodes of Impact, man.
So what's your take right now on the state of Impact Wrestling?
I think it's getting better every week. I think they're finding their groove on the new network. I think the talent roster is being used properly. I think the right people are being 3 weeks in a row that they've had consistently higher ratings than they did the week before. That's
a good sign.
It is a good sign. They pulled in, I think, I'm almost positive last week's Impact pulled in over 500,000 viewers, and I think if you combine the viewers with the initial air and in the replay that aired right after it, they pulled in over 600,000 viewers, which honestly isn't too far off from what they were doing on Wednesday nights with Spike when they left.
Yeah, Spike, they were getting about 1 million, but you got to think Destination America is in 40% of the homes as Spike is.
No, it's not that bad. It's like 60%.
Is it?
Yeah,
I thought it was. I heard 40.
I heard it was around the 60%.
Maybe it's 40% less.
So that might be right. But I mean, honestly, I don't think they're doing bad at all. And the fact that they've increased their ratings every week, and obviously we won't know until later on today what the ratings are for last Friday's episode. But I think if they continue to rise and they go higher, and they got Lockdown coming this Friday, if they can get within 6 months, if they can get close to 1 million viewers again on Destination America, a channel that I didn't even know existed until TNA signed with them, dude, they're that network's bread and butter, man. They're going to be able to write their own ticket.
They've already got 3 shows on that channel. They've got the Impact Wrestling show on Fridays. They got the Saturday morning show with Mike Tenay, and then I believe they have a best of show that airs. I'm not sure if that's with regularity or what, but I know there's a best of show coming up with Bully Ray, who's not even with the company anymore.
Yeah, they've had one with Sting too.
Well, hey, they don't care. They don't care because they talk about WWE where WWE completely ignores TNA. They actually talk about WWE every once in a while on Impact, and also it's kind of funny. You'll see a WWE Immortals commercial during their commercial breaks too.
Yeah, one thing I've liked what Destination America has done, which is something I really got on Spike about over the years that they were on their network. The past couple weeks during Raw, in the local programming spots during the commercial breaks, Destination America has aired commercials for TNA Impact. And I'm like, yes! Why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't you, during a commercial break of Raw, show Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, Bobby Lashley, all these people that you remember, they're here on Destination America. Come check them out. And
exactly.
In TNA, when they were on Spike, you never saw Spike promoting them on anything other than their own channel, which wasn't really helpful at all.
Do you think over the course of a month, them doling out their big cards all at once within the first month, Monsters Ball, Feast or Fired, Lockdown is next week, do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea?
I don't really understand why Lockdown's next week, because Lockdown normally took place in March for TNA when they ran it as a pay-per-view.
They're not doing pay-per-views anymore, are they?
I'm hearing they're still going to do, as far as live pay-per-views, I heard they're going to do 2 or 3 a year, and everything else is going to be those one-night-only pay-per-view specials, which nobody buys, and I really don't know why they continue to do them. I don't mind it, man. You got to get people on the new network.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you hook them early, they're going to keep coming back. So you gotta come out strong out of the gate. And some people might have tuned in, from a WWE Raw commercial to see Jeff Hardy. So you can't just give them a lackadaisical show. You got to come in, full speed ahead with your pedal to the metal and try to deliver the best show you possibly can.
Yeah. Now, this is my first... I've kind of known about it in passing from the outside, but this is the first time I've ever seen a Feast or Fired match and then the briefcases. I think it's an interesting idea. I like it. Obviously...
I thought they dropped the ball on it this year.
the way they do it, though, is too much of a ripoff of Money in the Bank, where you can do it anytime, anywhere. I think they should separate themselves from Money in the Bank, and where they got to specifically state, I'm cashing it in against you next week or whatever, instead of making it a Money in the Bank situation. But anyways, I think the premise of that is pretty cool. The Monsters Ball match, Jeff Hardy and Abyss, I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
They put on a pretty damn good show. So why didn't you like the Feast or Fired?
I didn't like the way it was handled this year for a simple reason. They used it as a platform to fire Velvet Sky when she wasn't even in the damn match to begin with.
Yeah.
Managers do things for their superstars all the time. It doesn't mean you can pull them into the ring and pin them and win the match.
Well, she technically grabbed the briefcase.
Yeah, she grabbed the briefcase, but she wasn't a legal participant in the match. She grabbed the briefcase and then handed it to Robbie, which meant Robbie was the one who secured the briefcase first.
Well, hey, it made Robbie look like a bigger douche than he already is. So hey,
dude, I've never liked Robbie E.
I still find it hilarious that Jesse is in wrestling. It doesn't surprise me, but I'm a Big Brother watcher. I've watched every season of Big Brother, and Jesse his TV start was being a contestant on Big Brother. So I just find it hilarious that he's on there. Mr. Pectacular.
The thing I find most annoying about Robbie E is that with his career with Impact, he's had a better career than Zack Ryder has in WWE.
Yeah.
And honestly, that turns my stomach in a very negative way because he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, and like I said, I haven't seen much of those guys just because I've just joined in since they moved over to Destination America. I mean, like I said, from the outside looking in, I know who some of these people are and what they've done, and I've seen an episode here or there, but I'm just now regularly getting into the mode of watching Impact Wrestling, and I think the main event scene so far it's molded into what I think it's interesting. I think the Beatdown Clan is a good faction for what they are. MVP is a good front man. He could still do it in the ring a little bit, even though he's getting older. But I think his faction with Kenny King and adding in Low-Ki and Samoa Joe, it's like you got the best of all worlds of TNA all into one clan that fits the kind of attitude and motive that the Beatdown Clan is putting out there. So I think that's brilliant. I like it. I like how Lashley has kind of separated himself from that, but he's also not really joining the other side because he turned down Team Angle for the lockdown match. And then, of course, Angle fighting with them. Angle coming back as a full-time wrestler now that he's healed. He's no longer an authority. Bobby Roode on the other side as well. And, of course, I love Austin Aries. And so that main event scene is very, very well. It's progressing, which is, you got your start when they had their little special on Destination America, and it's progressed week after week. And I think the progression makes sense, and for TNA writers, that's actually a plus considering a lot of crap that they put out.
Honestly, I think TNA's main event scene right now blows away WWE's main event scene, because I could really sit here right now and name off 8 to 10 people that I could buy as TNA World Champion. I couldn't give you 8 to 10 people that I could buy being WWE Champion right now. And I think that's a good testament to TNA's booking over the last couple months, from the end of their Spike TV run to the beginning of the Destination America run. I think they've got their main event picture figured out, and it's crowded, and there's a lot of believable people in it, and it makes for some really great TV.
Yeah, and even though they copied Daniel Bryan's story with Eric Young, I think he's been there a long time, paid his dues, and I think he's a solid guy in the storylines, and I think the whole thing with Roode, I think that's pretty interesting too.
Meh.
You're not an EY fan.
I'm not an EY guy. His constant ridiculous heel face turns and his gimmick changes are starting to rival, to me, that of Kane and Big Show.
Well, again, I'm on the outside.
No, I completely agree, and I can see how you could view that as somebody coming back in fresh. But as someone who has consistently watched, I've kind of had my fill of EY over the past decade.
Well, we'll most likely continue to talk about Impact Wrestling as long as there's something to talk about every week. We'll interject into that.
Absolutely.
We will call this a show for our second episode. I'd like to thank everybody. First off, thank everybody that tuned in the first episode. We got a nice number for being a brand new podcast, and neither one of us has really been on any regular, especially no wrestling podcasts. I've been in some gaming podcasts, but great response and great turnout for our first episode, and like to thank you for joining us for that episode, and hopefully you tuned in for this second episode. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/LostInTheMidcard, and then we are on iTunes now, so you can subscribe to us and also know right when that new episode drops on Monday morning. Just search for Lost in the Midcard in iTunes. And if you can't find us in there, we'll definitely be able to point you on our Facebook page there. So for Matt, this is Jeremy. I'd like to thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.